This is the introduction to exercise 9G on summarizing data measures of center. We focus on the idea that there are three different ways to measure the middle bit of data. So our mean, our median, and our mode. Okay? So a mean is our average, and the formula is to add up all those values and divide it by however many values there are. The example we used earlier is to say that if we have every single person's income, we take all that money and we split it evenly, that would be your average. Okay? Or for example, when you're calculating a test average, you add up everyone's result and split it evenly, that would be an average result, or your mean. Our median is just to say if we line it from smallest to biggest, we pick the middle number. If it's an even number of values and you actually end up with between two numbers, you just pick the average of those two numbers. The last measure of center we're looking at is the mode, and it's just the most common value. Okay? In real life, the only reason really you use mode is to identify peaks. So for example, if you're running a restaurant and you want to know when you need to have the most employees on staff, well, you'd use the mode to find out when you have the most customers come in. Yeah? Or if you have a lunch and a night time, or lunch and a dinner time where it's most popular, you might have two modes, in which case we just call it bimodal. The last bit I'll get you to write down is this section here. Outliers a score much larger or smaller than the rest of the data. An outlier. So for example, if I'm doing an investigation to see what the average height of year 9C students are, and let's say for example, you're 1.5, 1.7, 1.6, and then there's a kid up the back that's 4 meters tall, that would be an outlier. So those are 4 key concepts. 3 of them are our measures of center. So our mean, median, mode, and our outlier. The only time that I personally have identified that I've used median is when I'm looking at things that have very different values. So for example, one day you will go house hunting. When you're looking at houses or how much houses cost in a neighborhood, it's going to be the median, not the average. Just something to think about. All right, let's go through this example and then I'll let you get started on the questions. It says the hours a shop assistant spends cleaning the store in 8 successive weeks are as follows. Calculate the mean for this set of data. What I'm going to do, I'll calculate the mean, median, and mode just to make it a little bit easier. We're going to do one example together. So, to calculate our mean, we're going to use the formula from before. Our mean is going to equal to, and you'll see it written like this. That just means, it's called X bar. It just means the average. Okay? So our mean, we're going to add up our values. So I'm going to write 8 plus 9 plus 12 plus 10 plus 8. Oh, sorry, I'm missing a 10. Plus 8 plus 5 plus 10. And I'm going to divide all of that by however many days there are. That should be 8, which equals, and I'm just going to put that in my calculator. So I'm going to go 8 plus 9 plus 12 plus 10 plus 10 plus 8 plus 5 plus 10, and divide that by 8 gives me an answer of 9. I always double check, just in case you're missing a data point, right? Does 9 look about the middle for our data? Yeah, it does, so I'm happy to leave it there. If I'm looking for the median, right? If I'm looking for the median, I'm going to write all these numbers from smallest to biggest. So I would go, the smallest number is 5, then 8, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10, 12. I double check to make sure that I've got all the numbers. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And I'm going to go from the left and the right towards the middle. Something you might find helpful, Oscar, is to cross them out as you go. So, for example, cross, 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 and you'll notice that there are 2 numbers. If I cross again, we're not going to have any more numbers. So if you're in this scenario where you have 2 numbers, you just pick the number in the middle. What's between 9 and 10? 9.5, thank you very much. 9.5, 9.5. If it's some weird obscure number like 30 and 42, and you have to find the middle, just add them up and divide by 2. Okay? And finally for mode, of course, a mode would be 10. It's the most common number, so we just write 10. Okay? Just to be clear, it is possible to not have a mode. It's also possible to have multiple modes, whichever one applies. Okay? So it doesn't have to be one mode only. Now the last question, I must admit, is a little bit more of an extension question, but I want to propose this to you anyway. It says, how many hours would the shop assistant need to clean in the 9th week for the mean to equal to 10? So this is a bit of a more extension one. My recommendation here is to use algebra. My recommendation is to use algebra because it's really complex to try and do this without algebra. To calculate the average right now, those numbers added together, these ones right here, all add up to 72. That's what currently how many hours we have, right? So the mean or the average would be 72 plus whatever number of hours we have in the next one. So I'm just going to write H divided by 9, which equals to 10. Now, I've gone through that very quickly. Again, to be clear, that is more of an extension question. It's the total plus however many hours over, now instead of 8, which is how many weeks we had, now it's 9 weeks, because we're trying to figure out if we did a 9th week, how many hours would we have to work? And the average of that would equal to 10. And then I'd solve that. I'd solve that by multiplying both sides by 9 to give 72 plus h equals to 90. And I'd subtract 72 on both sides to give us 18. Now, to be clear, I'm not expecting you to know how to do this right now. It'd be nice if you were working your way up towards it, but I'm not expecting you to understand that right now. Okay? So in this particular case, I would recommend writing out an equation, but I'd like you to practice your mean, median, mode, outlier stuff first. Any questions? Okay.